Bringing that good music. Yahweh International. New Foundation Production presents.
It's your boy Keith, the Food for Thought Project, man. Today we're gonna do a little black culture. I'm black. And man, it's been hot on the internet. It's been hot on YouTube, and I'm seeing all these posts on Facebook. You know, there's an undercurrent of pro-black dialogue going on. Some a little bit radical, some right in the middle. But I think everybody sensed that there needs to be some kind of change. And everybody says, you know, we need to change this, we need to change that. But what I'm hearing is why we're not changing, which is great. People really talking about why is black culture devolving and not changing? You know, where does this come from? I think most people would straight up tell you slavery has a lot to do with where black people are today. Economically, spiritually, there's multiple points where people will insist that if you look at what happened during slavery, and how 400 years of slavery has really broken the spirit of the black African American. Yeah, I absolutely would agree with that. But what does that mean to somebody who's not black? Like, what does that mean when you hear that? You know, like, well, what are they talking about? Okay. Yeah, okay, that happened and blah, blah, et cetera. You know, why do we gotta keep bringing that up? A lot of people, too, black people and white people and other people be like, why you keep gotta bring up slavery? Look, you don't, first of all, I get irritated when people say that because you don't ever tell a Jew not to talk about when they were enslaved by the Egyptians. That's just in the Bible. And why you guys gotta keep talking about the Egyptians enslaving the Jews? And why you gotta keep bringing that up? It's in the Bible. It's part of history. And it's important to show how God has delivered them from slavery, right? It's not a negative, you know. It's a negative in the context of that it happened, but the deliverance is the positive, right? That's why people talk about it. Within black culture, African American culture, slavery is a tremendous negativity, every aspect of it, right? And it becomes more negative when you don't want any part of it. Why? It's because the more you know about slavery, the more you have to be responsible for the sacrifice. So I want you just to sit with that for a minute as we take a break to play some music from Yahweh International, New Foundations production, Armageddon. Man, what a blessing it is to have them put together some of our greatest hits, Christ-Sized Soldiers, Arkeys, Ace Dog, Save Savage. And the next couple of shows, we're gonna be going through the catalogs of some of the great music that they've been sponsoring and supporting. So without further ado, here we go. We're gonna play some of that Save Savage off the Armageddon album. Here we go.
I'm a faith walker. Yes, I am. It's your boy Mo, man. I serve the great I am. I had a plan to play ball before God's call. I'm a soldier boy now, safe Sav now. I done calmed down, I used to be wild. Now I praise God, how through my round style. Baptized in the spirit, I'm filled with the spirit. Now I speak through this flow, man. I hope y'all hear it.
I gotta pray for my homies, and all you MCs need to ride with me. And that's the way it's gonna be, cause I'm a Christ-side rider for eternity. Cause I'm so blessed, yes I am, I'm so blessed, true indeed. Cause this is the way it's gonna be, cause I gotta represent for the G.O.D. Come on.
Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Wow. We walk by faith and not by sight. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Wow. We walk by faith and not by sight.
What's faith? Slaying a giant with a rock. Speak about God, about your block. Laying your son up on the rock. See, faith without works is dead. Faith to get you through the valley time. Rearrange your state of mind. Faith. The the size of a mustard seed is all you need. Take you from that place, usher you in the grace. Eventually the song gon' cease, so by the end, I hope you find yourself a new friend.
Spiritual warfare creeping on the 24/7. Lockdown, flat as bread with no leather, never stepping on holy ground. Still we ride as hard, deep in the flame. Saturated by the blood that was slain for my game. Still I try to shake the flesh, down on my knees. Hear me, Father, hear me, begging forgiveness. Faith walker, say hear my holler when I call you. Holding me down, intercession of a true faith walker, still abounding in blessings.
Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Wow, we walk by faith and not by sight. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Wow, we walk by faith and not by sight.
You know, come on, just ride with me. Faith to take you to a place you can't receive. Through faith, your pain can be released. You got the glory and you'll surely find your peace. So blessed, so real up in your hood. Safe savages, ripping it like he should. Walking through your hood, preaching like St. Paul. I'm a true soldier, ready to make them demons fall. I'm a faith walker, boy. I represent the Lord so I can feel his joy. The devil trying to send many decoys out to destroy me, but devil, I rebuke thee. Plus we ride deep, when 2 or 3 are gathered in his name. Things won't be the same, that's right, things gon' change. It's alright to do your dance, come on and clap your hands.
Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Wow, we walk by faith and not by sight. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Wow, we walk by faith and not by sight. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Wow, we walk by faith and not by sight. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Is you a faith walker? Yeah, I'm a faith walker. Wow, we walk by faith and not by sight.
Yeah, that's Save Savage off of the Armageddon compilation, man. I thank Yahweh International, New Foundation Productions for getting behind that and putting this compilation together for people to hear some of our older music, which really to this day is still right on point. So we're going to get back to the conversation we were having about Black culture. I want you to take this in. This is some good food for thought. The more you know about slavery, the more you, as a Black African American, have to be responsible for the sacrifice. Well, what does that mean in our case? What are you trying to say? Here's what I'm saying. If you take 1 month, 2 months, I'm gonna give it from a lazy man's perspective. If you take it 1 month just to visually look at, and if there's film, every violent atrocity that has ever happened to African Americans, you'll probably throw up. Well, a couple things will happen. It's the same thing that happens when you watch these type of movies. A, you become angry. Talking about slavery makes people very angry, right? When you visually see these things, not in a film, but you see it on pictures and whatever was existing at that time, you become physically ill. Because as a human being, you can't understand what it's like to persevere slavery. 400 years of it. 400 years of it. In your mind, you can't fathom the sacrifice that these people made for us to be here right now, right? But if you take time to read about it, look at it, and see what was done, you get this little voice, maybe a conscience. You start looking at the things that you're doing, and you realize that maybe as a rapper or singer or whoever you are, politician, whatever you are as a Black person, that you are working against you are counterproductive. You are working against the legacy. That you might as well yourself put on a white hood and burn a cross. You are just as dangerous as the Klan. Because the Klan don't mess with you every day, but everything you do every day is counterproductive to what the sacrifice was. You understand what I'm saying? Especially rappers. A lot of these rappers, go on, get your Klan sheet. When I was lived in Oakland, California, listen to me. we lived in Oakland, California. This white lady was standing outside handing out these leaflets to black people only. So she gave me this freaking leaflet, and on it, it said something like, "Thank you for black on black crime." I don't think if it said you're making my job easier, but basically what it said was, it was thanking us for killing each other, is what it was. Oh, I remember people were walking about 10 steps and they would turn around and look at this lady like and then would come back. But see, how do you come back? What are you gonna say to her? Because it's not like it wasn't true. In the Bay Area at the time, the Bay Area had 5 cities with the highest murder rate in the United States. We were in the top 10. And out of the top 10, top 5, 3 were in the Bay Area: East Palo Alto, Richmond, and I think Oakland. What are you gonna say? Now, even though you as an individual might not be doing it, but the reality as a whole couple of cities of black people, there was a subculture of violence that was existing. And so what you had the people who were perpetrating the violence, and then you had the people that was watching the violence. And when I say watching the violence, they weren't the ones doing it, but they were not doing anything to change the culture of violence, right? So what happened was it continues because the people who are not committing the violence are not interacting and changing the culture of the people who are doing it, right? Everybody's retreating to their own culture, own corner, excuse me. So when I thought about that, when I wanted to talk about this devolving of black culture and seeing all this stuff on Instagram and stuff like that, so much stuff made sense. You know, I forgot forgot his name, Dr. Omar, whatever his name is. He said, how are you going to have a revolution when you can't even grow your own food? You don't even know how to shoot a gun. I was like, well, shooting a gun ain't a problem for a lot of these. But, you know, he was making some very clear statements. You can't build, you can't grow. He said, you can't have a revolution if you can't take care of yourself outside of the system. And when he means the system, he means outside of the government. Like, what if tomorrow something happens? How do you provide for your family, right? And I totally got that. I said, yeah, you know, you're right on that one. Because that's a major thing you have to be able to do. Is there's a reason why after that during and after slavery, there were certain traits, there's certain skills that our forefathers passed on to next in line. Let alone if you was a carpenter, a farmer, a plumber, whatever you was, that got passed on because it was something that you needed to learn to survive. Because the reality was we wasn't rolling on 24s and all this other stuff, you know, and drugs was not progressive at that time. You know, our culture was as pure as it probably can get, you know, outside of whatever they were getting from the Indians. What do you call that stuff they were smoking back then? Peyote or whatever it was. So when you look at that, when he said that statement, I was like, man, that's as real as it gets. You don't bank at black banks. You don't buy black. Every aspect of your dollar goes towards the system or towards the man. I was like, yeah, it's true. It's you know it's true, right? You know that almost 90% of the black beauty salons are not owned by black people. It's owned by the Koreans, right? You do know that, right? You see what I'm saying? So when you look at the devolving of black culture, you always have to start with the music. The music has been our voice. Now listen to me. Back in Africa, you know what drums were used for? Drums were used for communication. They could hit on drums a certain pattern or a certain routine and communicate to another village far away about an event or something that was going on. Let alone if it was war or come over here, we're having something. Drums played a major part in communication. Always has been. In almost every culture, that drums is drums a part of the culture. Drums was a communication, not necessarily always entertainment. It was a way to express something or to relay something. So even when you look at during slavery, before Christianity was given to us, who did not know it at the time, there were these chants and various things that they would do while they were in the fields to communicate. So the master wouldn't know what he's talking about. You know, eventually the master got hip to that. What are they talking about, you know, and putting it into that. But there was always this way musically that black culture has expressed ourselves. That is one of the gifts of God that he gave us. Because so many decades, I mean, 400 years of slavery and Lord knows how many years of after that, where we had no voice, right? When you don't have no voice, what did we use to speak out? We used our music to express how we felt about things, right? It was ours. It was ours. Gospel music came. We really, hey, once gospel came, then the fields, then they were singing them black spirituals. Man, I mean, it became, you couldn't tell us nothing. I mean, musically, that was our voice, straight up. Jazz music, blues music, whatever it may be. When you look at what the music was talking about at those periods of time and what it was relaying to the people, music for a long period of time was the pulse of the people. It's where black culture was at. If you want to know what's going on with black culture, just listen to music at them during that period. If you're listening to gospel music, you could hear the cry in gospel music. Like you could hear the pain in gospel, in early gospel music, in black hymnals or whatever we were singing back in the day, in my grandmother's day. You could hear it. Lord, Lord, you heard my cry. And then they went, all that stuff. I was like, whoa. It was so like depressing on one level, but you understood the breakthrough in it as well. They had all these songs that didn't even have words sometimes. You be sitting in them southern churches. My grandmother her church was way off in the woods. And I'm telling you, some of them songs they sung, I have no idea what they were saying because it was a cry, almost like a cry out to God. A lot of those black Negro spirituals. If we moved into jazz, it showed jazz really and blues showed our creativity on a whole nother level. Like you can't even touch us. Whatever music America was making at the time, every musical form derived. Where do you think rock and roll came from? That's us. They didn't make that. We made that. Don't even get me started on that, bro. If you ask any real rock and roll people, Chuck Berry or whoever it may be, they'll go back. I saw something so old, a black lady playing guitar on some show back even before him. Everybody knows that blues and gospel and those art forms led to rock and roll, especially blues. We was doing it. We were doing it, and that's why when black music became popular, why you had such a push from white culture to stop it, because they saw that the music was changing. It was making change. If you've seen any of these videos when who was it? Was it Chuck Berry? I'm trying to think. Little Richard, any of those cats would have these concerts, and then the white people would be jumping over they had the segregation, so you couldn't pass on one side. Them kids was like, man, flick that. And everybody's mixing. The cops is mad, trying to break it up. Yo, music was breaking down walls. We're not having it. We're all coming together around this music. You understand what I'm saying? If you talk to back then, let alone if it was the Beatles or any group from Europe, if you ask them who inspired them, black musicians, period, point blank. Everything Elvis did, everything Elvis said, black culture. You understand what I'm saying? We were respected and hated at the same time. It was amazing that we were evolving past our pain and struggle, right? Then, I don't know, it was in the 60s and 70s when black exploitation films came out. That was a devolve, right? Now, don't get me wrong, I love seeing some of that stuff. But you got to understand, a lot of them films were showing pimping, black women, so when that urban city life, hustling player mentality, that's where it really came from. When you start seeing Superfly and some of these other things, you gotta understand in the South that wasn't going on. The Bible Belt, you better ask somebody, bro. In the Bible Belt, that stuff was not being played like that. But in big cities, that was really, those black exploitation films was really getting out there. You know what I'm saying? And so what you had a generation of people watching, a generation of young black boys and women watching these black exploitation films about pimping, women, playing, hustling, doing drugs. You know what I'm saying? You saw a lot of that. It was crazy. It was crazy. That was not a good look for us as black people. But within the city, when you don't have jobs, let's be honest, when in the bigger cities, when jobs were not available and people were trying to make a way, people were hustling and pimping and doing heinous crimes and trying to survive. Living in a big city back in them days, I don't know how, it was just craziness. I watch videos and I see documentaries about the Bronx when it was burnt all out, in certain parts of New York, and just LA, during the riots and just all the racism and just, hey, people were surviving, and unfortunately they had to survive on the backs of other black people. Black on black crime, just everything was self-sabotaging during that period. When I started being self-aware of my blackness, my culture, I think unfortunately, I was probably in kindergarten. I had racism in my life early on. People with KKK in our yard. We lived in Alaska. No, actually, it was in Texas first. The first time I went to jail, I was 7 years old, I think, something like that. And I ran away from home, and I just remember how the guy was talking to me, this real racist dude. And but when I moved to Alaska, deal with racism. But as far as black culture is concerned, it was always through music first. So my first musical experience was breakdancing, the beginning of hip hop. Listen to me. Prior to hip hop, it was all about R&B. And when I say R&B, I'm talking about, I won't say Marvin Gaye. So I already knew about the Sam Cooke's Marvin Gaye. Black culture around music was already stamped. Everybody knew who, far back as Mahalia Jackson is gospel music. Everybody knew music front and back. Musical knowledge in that time was broad, right? So during my period, I'm trying to think who was singing R&B. Luther Vandross, because I was in junior high school. So that Luther Vandross, Whitney area, during that period and stuff like that, it's still about love. Everything was love, romance, just really deep emotions, right? In music, in black culture. Hip hop came out, right? And of course, young people's music, and whenever young people have a voice, no one ever likes it. So when hip hop first came out, no one knew what it was. It didn't make sense, hip hop. First of all, that wasn't the first song I ever heard. First of all, that's just the first song that blew up. But when you heard hip hop, it did sound like a bunch of gibberish. It didn't make sense until the message came out. When the message came out, it changed everything. Man, when Grandmaster Flash them dropped that, it changed everything. They took the state of black youth and put it in your face like bow. Gangster rap before it was gangster rap without the cussing. And it really told you the state of black America within inner city. You ever want to know anything about black culture within inner city, just listen to that song. Because that still happens today. That song is still relevant today. There's no difference in some of these cities. So the message, African Mbada, the music was different. It was a little bit of black culture voice against the man, against society, against the system, pro black mindset, like be black and proud, but understand the history, understand where we came from. You had a lot of consciousness rap at that time. Like, it was different. Like, you felt as a black person like you had to start representing, like standing up and being righteous. You know what I'm saying? That's what hip hop was to me at that period, until maybe around the Heavy D period, when dancing started taking over. Wasn't a bad thing, it was party music, party hip hop. So you still had your, conscious rap existing as the same thing as party rap. The difference is party rap started taking over because conscious rap was so serious and people didn't want to always be serious. So we kind of fluctuated between both. And so based off of what was happening in society, we would just split. If somebody done ticked off the brothers, we play some conscious rap. We play some Public Enemy in a heartbeat. That's just because that was always one in the chamber. But at the same time, if we play some Heavy D, some Kwame, whoever it may be, just Run DMC, whatever it was. But in general, the music was positive, right? In general. But even at that period of time, I felt we were evolving. right? There was no not going to school. You know what I'm saying? You gotta understand, people's grandmamas were still alive back then. Well, mama's mama was still alive. You were gonna go to school. You know what I'm saying? If you dropped out of school, you wasn't just hanging out on the block. In some cities you wasn't doing it. Like in Los Angeles, pre-Crip and all that stuff, you had some stuff going on before the Bloods and Crips really took hold and what they were supposed to be versus what they are now. You know, but the reality is, there was still enough of the old mindset to press you to do the right thing. You understand what I'm saying? So, hold on a second. Where we at? Okay. We doing good. Yeah, it just was what it was, right? So then, musically, everything's going good. But then right around this time, I did learn something. Right when hip hop was popping off, the reason why I learned this is because of a couple of things. At this time, Black people owned Black labels. So we were putting our own music out. We owned our own stuff. Somebody told me, this is the first time I had heard this, that it was a negative thing that we're going to do the same thing with hip hop that we did with jazz. I can't remember who said this to me. Somebody older. I said, well, what's that? They said, we're going to sell that out too. She's like, most jazz people, jazz artists, most artists from back in the day don't own none of their publishing. I was getting schooled. I'm like, what are you talking about? I hear them on the radio. They're not getting no royalties. They're not getting no money from that. Back in them days, they would give these, what you think is a lot of money, and Black people were not educated about royalties and all that stuff. And, sold their labels, gave up their rights for this little janky money now, not seeing the long-term effect, right? Now, at the time, you could have told me that was going to happen to hip-hop. It was brand new. Black people was doing it. But you had Russell and the other boy out there, Rick Rubin, doing it. He wasn't black, but but he was down with the cause. But, in general, most of the labels were black. And we were moving in the right direction. But then sure enough, you saw it coming. I love my Jewish people to death. I have a lot of Jewish friends. But boy, when they smell money, you can't even fault them. It's money. They know money before everybody else. They see an opportunity like, I need to get involved with that. There's a reason why most of the publishing is owned by Jewish people. There's a reason why Jewish people are entrenched in the entertainment business, and I won't even need to go into that long history. But sure enough, and it wasn't all Jewish people, just white people in general. I hate to just group them with white people because to me they're a little different. I know, no, they're all white. No, they're not. Ask the Klan. So anyway, so what you had you had these labels coming in, buying out these black record labels and basically taking over black music. This was the beginning of the devolving of black music. So I'm talking about after Public Enemy, I'm talking after Run DMC, I'm talking right about the time when Hammer came in. No, actually before Hammer, I'm gonna say Hammer because when we talk about big selling artists, we're gonna just proceed from Hammer to gangster rap. You gotta understand that all of this music that was coming out, first of all, Hammer was a reflection of the culture in the Bay Area at the time, because at that time I lived there and dancing was everything. Like if you couldn't dance, you wasn't getting in no clubs, you wasn't getting in no parties. Even though the Bay Area was still a very violent place, we had other artists speaking on that. Too Short, if there wasn't this pulse, other voices. But at the time, young culture was a little bit ratchet, but really into partying and having a good time. They didn't want to shoot up the clubs like that yet. It hadn't got that bad. So if you look at what happened from Hammer through gangster rap, that devolving of our music, now not the music, but the ownership of the music and how that would play out long term. So Hammer, I felt it was a reflection of what was going on. Too Short, 40, and whoever else was around at the time in the Bay Area, 415 and whoever else, Richie Rich, whoever else was going on, those were true reflections of what was going on, right? Then you go to LA, you had NWA and a lot of other groups that were, before them you had the World Class Wrecking Crew, with Dre was in that. But see, if you see, that's all of that dancing, pop, disco, rap mix that was going on in the West Coast. We really wasn't on that gangster tip yet. NWA coming out. All that music was true reflection of what was going on in the hood, right? But we didn't own it. Listen to me. We didn't own our own stuff. So at this point in time, you think to yourself, this is when the diversity in hip hop started dwindling down, right? So these entities come in and they start buying up all these labels, giving all these guys money. You start seeing the flossing and just, you start seeing money in people's hands like on never before, people going platinum. But also you start seeing these labels that are not Black owned pushing an agenda. Now listen, not Black owned. If I'm a Black rapper and you tell me that you felt like when I was rapping on this song, yeah, I didn't really like it. Or, nah, let's go with something else. And you're not even Black, you're not even from the hood, what the heck is going on? But you gotta understand, back in them days, there was a lot of pressure starting to be put, not NWA because they just did it their way, but after NWA and what I call, what would you call it? I'm gonna say the stripper music. There was a clear conscious choice from program directors and record labels to push certain type of music out of hip hop, right? Systematically. And think about it. Because one, beyond making money, what it does do is devolve the culture. Because the culture had a lot of power. You understand, Black culture, as far as what we wanted to say, we had a lot of power and a lot of people didn't like it. So if they're doing something you don't like, buy them out and force them to rap about things that you feel you want them to rap about. And since we had all the power and they didn't want us to have it, I'm gonna give you this advance. I'm gonna give you $2 million and I want you to rap like this. I mean, literally telling people what they want to rap about. So first of all, what they do is they start signing rappers who are not the pulse of the community. First of all, when stripper music came out, everybody clearly was not, everybody was not going to strip clubs, popping bottles and living like that, okay? Just straight up 100. When all this stripper music came out and all that stuff, let me help you layman people out who, some of you people that have been watching too many videos and thinking that's the way it is. Let me help you out. First of all, entertainers don't pay for nothing. Listen to me. Real people who have made it don't pay for nothing. So let me explain to you what happens. When real celebrities go to strip clubs, these strip clubs have marketing and promotion budgets. They, in advance, they reach out to these celebrities and say, hey, we're gonna comp you tonight. What do you think comp you means? Do you really think that just mean get you in tonight? I'm a celebrity. What's gonna make me get out of my $1 million house to come to your strip club? First of all, let me tell you what that looks like. First of all, they promise them a certain amount of girls in the VIP room for their own personal party, and they give them money. Listen to me. They give these rappers and singers and whoever else money. These dudes don't spend their own money. Listen to me. You hear what I'm saying? So now you have a culture, a new generation of young people watching videos about popping bottles, cars that they can't afford, spending money that they don't and can't have, living a lifestyle that's not real. So now these fools out here, and drug dealing, of course, because that became the new thing. It wasn't like NWA didn't talk about drug dealing, they did, but within the scope of drug dealing and corruption. So now it's drug dealing with fantasy. So now you got these young people like thinking, I gotta go to this club and I gotta make it rain with money that's mine. So while you're at the club spending your hard-earned money, oh yeah, you know what? So-and-so's gonna be in the club tonight. You know, I'm gonna go because I wanna be kicking it with him and show him I'm flossing, I'm bossing, you know what I'm saying? So while this celebrity's throwing money up that's not his, guess what you doing? You throwing your real money up, looking like an idiot. And I'm pretty sure them celebrities looking at you like, this dude is complete fool. See, that's the trick. That's the devolve. That's devolving culturally, devolving you as an individual. Because now here you are at a strip club trying to make it rain with money that you go to work for 40 days a week. And here's these celebrities and his homies getting treated. So now you funding the lie. You basically fund the lie. So now you and your friends are funding the lie. That's the fantasy. So now all of your money, that's how they get you into the strip club. So think about this. So if they make more music, first of all, you better know these music A&Rs and these event planners at these record labels have close connections to strip clubs too. Don't have it twisted. When they have to host something, they have to do events, and they need to be somewhere. Where's close to strip? They have relationships. So now you have a record industry telling black people that you need to rap about this thing here that doesn't show black culture in its entirety. And not only that, doesn't show the true essence of what's going on in the hood. It only shows the fantasy of what black people want, or they think we think we want, because they keep shoving it down your throat. The more you see it, the more you believe it. The more you see it. So then generation after come on, people. Generation after generation after generation sees that. They keep striving for it, striving for it, striving for it. Let me give you an example. Another thing. Think about how our women was dressing before stripper music. I call it stripper hip hop. Think about it. Now, yeah, they were wearing booty shorts and whatever. But back in my early 20s, when I used to go to strip clubs, yes, I used to go to strip clubs. Every guy probably has. The strippers in the club never looked like the girls at the club. Let me rephrase that. The strippers in the strip club didn't dress or look like the girls in the dance club. There was a distinct difference. Yes, the girls in the dance club would dress a little scantily a little bit, right? Some flats, but they, reasonable. The girls in the strip club need to get that money, so you're going to be enticed because they're barely wearing anything, right? That's how it was during that period for me. That dramatically changed when this stripper style music, this club popping, making it rain culture took hold. Because now these young girls and these young women are now watching these strippers make this money and dress and act a certain way. So after generation and generation of that being shoved down their throat, voila, you can go on any Facebook Live and multiple other little sites, and you will see young girls now acting like strippers. Yeah, just completely devolved black women into strippers. I know people who gone to college, degrees, out here twerking and doing just completely no common sense when it comes to like what happened. But see, that's what I'm saying. We lost our power when we lost our music. When you have people telling us what hip hop is, and they're not even hip hop, they're just some corporation or some business who has another agenda. Look, there are two agendas: making money and devolving black culture. Remember, they didn't like it when black culture had a say, when we owned our own power. Didn't like that. Now, you do more research into that, and you'll find out, let off it's Clear Channel or whoever the heck it is, who are in these big conglomerates. If you start looking at the top 15 executives, black, there's no color. There's no color. The color is at the very low level, contact, whatever it may be. But who pushes the agenda is very clear. That's why you had such a long period. So now, for a very long time, that stripper music was it. Everybody was doing it. Y'all ain't all going to the same strip club. I mean, it was just ridiculous. So now what you had is you had a generation of young people who you had the men were working however they got money and going to spend the money in the clubs, trying to live in fantasy. You had women now starting to dress like strippers. Just no morals, right? And that was hip hop for a very long time. Today's generation. Now you have, in the last 5 years, some people will say Future did it. Some people will say the Migos did it. I would say neither one of those, because at no time did I think either one of those the guys were gay. At no time did I feel like they were pushing a homosexual mentality. And let me just say this very clearly. I have gay friends. I know a lot of gay people in the industry, but listen, what I'm talking about is something different, not your individual choice, but a social choice. So then you had this generation now. I call it the mumble rapper generation. But that generation is also wrapped in a lot of fakeness. So listen to me. Back in the MySpace days, and I spoke about this, how you could pay for views and all that stuff. Look, this generation of music that comes from Black culture is not real music. It's called fake hotness. It's pay to play. You see, oh, he got 1 million views. No, he paid for 1 million views. Every view you see was prepaid for. That's how it's been for a long time. You can go to, there's these marketing promotion companies. You can go there and give them $100,000 or however much money you want to spend for views, and you can be in the millions of views, and people will think you're hot. Like 1 million people love you, but really you only have 10 views. That's how your Lil Yachty's and these people who are not being played in the club, these rappers who are out right now, they were not getting played in the hood. They were not getting played in the club. They were not getting played. They were YouTube celebrities. They were fake hotness, pay to play. If you saw the interview with Ebro and that dude from that marketing promotion company on Wild 90 on 97 point whatever it is in New York, they got in that big old argument about what I'm talking about. And when he said, well, what about the checks? He was like, what checks? And then they got in that big old argument because everybody knows it's pay to play. So when you're looking at these artists who are the hottest artists out right now, and I'm not talking about Drake, I'm not talking about Kendrick Lamar, I'm not talking about J. Cole. I can go down the list of people who really pay dues, but when I'm talking about is Kodak Black, Lil Yachty, and all these little this and little that. There's like a whole tribe of these little fake rappers who were not hot anywhere. They got hot off of YouTube, off of fake views, and then the media basically brought them into our culture, Black hip hop culture, telling us that this is what Black hip hop is going to be right now. This is what Black hip hop is going to be right now. Straight up telling us, and you had the pushback from the hip hop industry. If you ain't seen the videos, hip hop radios, everybody was pushing against that stuff. Real hip hop stations was not having it. I've seen multiple videos. First of all, on a lot of these radio stations, you know, MCs or rappers would come on this show freestyle, let alone sway or whatever it may be. These mumble rappers were coming on this show like, I'm not rapping because there wasn't rappers. I'm a rock star. Bro, faking it until you make it. you understand what I'm saying? Because when you're a real rapper, you're tested. You're put to the fire. You understand what I'm saying? These guys were never tested. They were never hot. It was fake. It was phony from the start. But they took something that was hot, which was trap music, and they applied that to their vocals, and that's what made them hot. Is the trap music, that beat, that rhythm, that vibe. That vibe is an undercurrent of truth. So they took a truth that was going on within music, like the Migos and Future, that style, but then they just put bad rapping on top of it and told us that this is what you Black people are going to have right now. This is your music. This is the pulse of Black culture. And of course, if you keep shoving that down Black people's throat, young people don't know history of. They don't know enough of their own hip hop history to call a phony. They fall for anything. Anybody that knows real hip hop knew what that was right when it came out. Like, these dudes, no, absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? But that's not happening, because what you had is an undercurrent. You got to understand, once you allow the fantasy of stripper music to take hold, remember that's based in fantasy, right? Just all it is. The strip clubs exist? Yeah. Do people go them and spend money? Yeah. But the way the music was projecting it, remember, was based on fantasy, because these guys never had to pay. They were rapping about things that they never had to pay for. They was courtesy to them. So now here you come funding it, right? So now you've opened the door for fake and phoniness, right? So you almost can't even be mad that these fools showed up, because we already let some fake phoniness come through. We let this lifestyle that most people don't live happen. The devolving of Black culture in Black music. shoving this bad music and food down our throats, forcing us to eat. Well, not forcing us, because you can just turn the radio off, but it's just it's in us. It's just in us. You understand what I'm saying? So the main point is about Black culture is, why can't we just come together and get anything done? Because we've been conditioned to sell out for a long time. First, our music, and we continue to sell that out. We don't own hardly any of our stations. Best believe, first of all, understand there's some major conglomerates that own Black radio stations telling us what Black music is. So you got a problem there. When you don't own your own stuff and people are saying this is the music we're playing, or else you'll get fired. Pay to play. We've completely sold out our music. Now you get a couple of artists coming through, you get your Kendricks and people like that, but that's far in between. But the problem is, Kendrick Lamar is not the only Kendrick Lamar type of artist out there. There's 40 genres of hip hop. Why are we only getting one? Why do they not play any political political rap? Why do they not play any conscious rap? You can feed people different food, but they don't do that. Anything that's gonna make you think, they don't want to play that. Anything that's gonna open your mind up, they don't want to play that. Because if to do that will lead you away from the flesh and stupidity. You understand what I'm saying? No enlightenment. Man, it's frustrating, because when you're African American and you're existing in this plane where you just want to grab everybody, put them in one room and say who's at fault. Everybody knows. How did we get here? Deep down, everybody kind of knows, and you can't say, "Oh, the white man is." No, it's us. It's us as a culture. We're not mentoring and we're not teaching. That's the de-evolution of Black culture. Because when I grew up, I was mentored and taught a lot of things. That's why I'm a music producer today, from various people, Black and white. But my grandmother's culture, the culture before her, you got to understand, a culture that does not pass on anything doesn't learn anything. What we're passing on is fake and phoniness right now. Reality shows, whack music, just laziness within everything. You got Oprah building schools in Africa because she don't even want to waste her money here. I'm not saying that she ain't building schools here, but I ain't saying one. But I'm just saying our best and brightest